The government of Colombia denounced the attack perpetrated in the rural area of Jamundi, Cauca, against the father of the country's vice president, Francia Marquez. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dissolved the war cabinet amid internal and international pressure. And in Saudi Arabia, Hajj pilgrims performed tawaf at Mecca's Grand Mosque as Muslims mark Eid Al-Adha. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Colombia on Sunday, Sigifredo Marquez, father of Vice President of Colombia, Francia Marquez, suffered an attack when he was traveling through the Cauca department in a bulletproof van. During the incident, Marquez was accompanied by his 6-year-old grandson, nephew of the Vice President. Both got out unharmed. In this regard, through a press release, the Presidency of Colombia condemned the event and stated that these attacks against civilians are a flagrant violation to human rights. The authorities also informed that the military forces will continue with the offensive against armed groups in the area that use violence and keep difficulty the peaceways in Colombia. Vice President Francia Marquez expressed the following through the social media X. It pains my heart that just this day my father was attacked. I report that my father, along with my 6-year-old nephew and the 2 men of protection, suffered an attack on the Suarez-Cali road near Timba. Fortunately, they were unharmed and are well. I express my concern for security in Cauca, Valle del Cauca, in the municipality of Suarez and the district of La Toma, as well as for the security of my community and my family. I request the Office of the Attorney General of Colombia to open the relevant investigations to verify these events to the Ministry of National Defense to take necessary measures to strengthen the presence of military and police forces which contribute to ensure security in Cauca and Valle del Cauca. At this difficult time, I appeal to the whole of Colombia to join efforts to lead our society to peace. If we work together, we can turn the page of pain and violence. In this sense, the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, expressed his solidarity with the Vice President of Colombia, Francia Marquez, after the attack suffered by her father. In this way, through his account on the social media X, the Colombian leader expressed a hug of solidarity to Vice President Francia Marquez for the attack against her father. Furthermore, he asked the authorities to start relevant investigations. Regarding this event, Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez expressed in the social media X her condemnation of the event. In this way, she denounced the attack on the father of Colombia's Vice President, Francia Marquez, Sigifredo Marquez Trujillo, who escaped unharmed from the aggression while traveling between the departments of Cauca and Valle del Cauca. Rodriguez also stressed that violence will never have any justification in a society that seeks peace. In Argentina, 16 people remain in high security prison after the violent repression of mobilizations against the approval of the law of bases. In this context, 5 days after the brutal repression against the peaceful demonstrators who were trying to reach the National Congress, a total of 16 people, among them university students, continue to be detained. It should be noted that before being transferred to prisons, they were held in illegal detention for 48 hours, accused of terrorism. In this sense, on Friday, Judge Maria Salvini clarified the situation of the 33 people detained at the request of prosecutor Stornelli and decided to release 17 people for lack of evidence. In this context, the governor of Buenos Aires province, Axel Kicillof, made a statement on social media. Today, it is fulfilled, the 69th anniversary of the bombing of Plaza de Mayo that sought to overthrow the democratically elected President Juan Domingo Perón. The incident claimed the lives of hundreds of Argentinian men and women, one of the most atrocious events in our history. Democracy must be cared for and strengthened so that hatred and violence never again take over our country. We demand the immediate release of those incarcerated for demonstrating against the law of bases. Also in Argentina, the oil and gas union of Rio Negro, Neuquén and La Pampa announced they will go on strike for 48 hours to demand better salaries, which will affect the production of the Vaca Muerta oil field. The strike will take place next Tuesday starting at 8 a.m. and was decided after the failure of negotiation instances between the Petrolero Union and the companies of the sector. The Secretary of the Union, Marcelo Russi, declared that the strike will be carried out under freedom of action in order to avoid having to comply with a call for compulsory conciliation. This field, which covers an area of 30,000 square kilometers, is one of the largest unconventional oil and gas formations in the world and is an important resource for the country's energy production. In the United States, authorities in the town of Medwin in the state of Massachusetts reported a shooting that occurred on Sunday during a private party. In this way, police stated that the shooting left 8 people injured, all youth between the ages of 17 and 22, and 2 of them are in critical condition in a hospital. In this regard, the chief of police of Medwin City, Scott McNamara, said that no suspects have been identified, nor have the weapons used in the attack been recovered.
One victim suffering from gunshot wounds, and another victim with injuries not sustained from a gunshot. It looks like a fall while running. At least 7.
As mass shootings incidents increase in the United States, let's go over some updated figures regarding gun violence in the country. According to data published by the Gun Violence Archive Organization, 227 mass shootings have been reported in the country so far in 2024, including at least 11 mass murders qualified as events in which more than 4 people died. The statistics show that the total death toll in episodes related to guns amount to 7,708, with 653 of the victims being minors. 105 of them were children under the age of 11 and 548 teenagers. Also in the United States, authorities evacuated 1,200 people after a wildfire in northern Los Angeles County. The fire swept more than 9 kilometers near a highway in the community of Gorman, while threatening to spread towards populated areas. Fire crews said the blaze spread to the southeast of the region, where nearby structures and major highways were located. In the face of the fire, crews constructed perimeter lines, while aircraft workers stopped the advance of the flames. California State Park Services evacuated 1,200 people from the Hungry Valley Recreation Area in Gorman, and both Hungry Valley and the Pyramid Lake Reservoir were closed as a result of the threat. In Mexico, heavy rainfalls during the last few days caused floods in several cities of the southern states on Monday. In regions such as Chiapas and Quintana Roo, water level exceeded 1 meter in height, causing considerable damage to homes and other infrastructures. The Secretariat of National Defense reported the Mexican Army is deployed in the affected areas to conduct traffic control work and remove fallen trees. Meanwhile, the National Meteorological Service warned that a trough with cyclonic potential will lead to heavy rainfalls in the east and southeast of Mexico in the upcoming hours, which could generate landslides and an upsurge in the levels of rivers and streams. In Chile, over 11,000 people have experienced damages caused by floods and landslides as a result of heavy rains associated with a frontal system that hit the south-central part of the country. The Risk and Disaster Management Committee reported that the most impacted region by the flood is the Biobío region, where 11,430 people were affected. The committee reported that 5,941 houses suffered minor damages, 617 were registered with major damage, and several were totally destroyed. This situation left to 7,260 people isolated and 783 in shelter conditions at the national level. Severe weather also affected agriculture, leaving losses of close to $200 million. Although rainfalls had a brief pause, weather experts predict the arrival of a new front on Monday. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu decided to dissolve the war cabinet created after the operation of the Palestinian resistance at Aqsa flood launched on October 7th. The dissolution of the war cabinet happens barely a week after the leader of National Unity, former General Benny Gantz, and his partner Gadi Eisenkot resigned due to disagreements with Netanyahu, both positions now claimed by the far right. The move comes 9 months after the start of the genocide in the Gaza Strip. It also comes at a time when Netanyahu is under pressure at the internal level for not reaching an agreement to release the detainees in Gaza, and at the international level with an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court and a genocide lawsuit filed by South Africa at the Hague Tribunal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office clarified that fighting in Rafah will continue as planned after the military's announcement of a tactical pause in military activity, which will last 11 hours a day on part of the road connecting the enclave. The aim is to allow humanitarian aid trucks to reach the current Shalom crossing, but according to a statement from his office, he classified these humanitarian pauses as unacceptable, although he has stopped short of cancelling them. The dispute is the latest in a series of clashes between members of Netanyahu's coalition and the army over the management of the war. This is happening a week after former General Benny Gantz announced his resignation from the war cabinet, saying Netanyahu did not have an effective strategy on Gaza. In Palestine, entire lineages of families have been wiped out as a result of the genocide perpetrated by Israel in the Gaza Strip. According to a journalistic investigation reported at least 60 cases in which Palestinian families have lost over 25 of the members due to Israeli attacks. According to the report, some bombings have killed 4 generations of the same family. Among the most tragic cases are 80 murdered members of the extended Abu al-Qumsan family, the Mughrabi family, which lost more than 70 members in a single strike in December, and 50 members of the Abu Najjar family killed in the October attacks, including at least 2 pregnant women. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East denounced the systematic killing of its aid workers in the aftermath of Israeli attacks on Gaza. On social media, the agency posted, "Gaza is the most dangerous place in the world for humanitarian workers. Since the war began, 103 UNRWA colleagues have been slaughtered, the highest death toll in the history of the United Nations. Despite this, our partners continue to work to support families and provide aid amid the terrible humanitarian crisis." And in Saudi Arabia, Hajj pilgrims performed tawaf at Mecca's Grand Mosque as Muslims mark Eid Al-Adha. During the religious ceremony, pilgrims make 7 laps around the Kaaba, the large black cube structure at the center of the Grand Mosque. Authorities announced that at least 14 pilgrims had succumbed to an extreme heat wave, highlighting the acute physical toll of the annual rites, which in recent years have fallen during the hot Saudi summer. It should be noted that this pilgrimage is one of the largest annual religious gatherings in the world. And gathered on a football pitch in Port Sudan, Sudanese worshippers performed Eid Al-Adha prayers, marking the end of the Hajj pilgrimage as war grinds on in the country. Participants prayed for the end of the war between the Sudanese army and the so-called Rapid Support Forces. The faithful also prayed for an end to the killings and for the return of citizens displaced by the war. In the news, Chinese Premier Li Qiang and Australia Prime Minister Anthony Albanese agreed on properly managing their differences and advancing in bilateral cooperation. The Chinese Premier is on an official visit to Australia from Saturday to Tuesday. On Monday, he took part together with Albanese in the 9th Annual Australia-China Leaders Meeting, where 4 bilateral cooperation agreements on trade, climate change, education and research were signed. In this regard, the Chinese Premier said that they are willing to improve coordination and cooperation with Australia at regional and international levels.
There is a very broad space for cooperation between our 2 sides, and the potential for cooperation is extremely huge. As comprehensive strategic partners, China and Australia must build a solid foundation of trust, tighten the bond of prosperity, achieve our common development while moving forward hand in hand, and realize our respective dreams through close cooperation.
For his part, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese highlighted the importance of diplomacy to overcome differences.
Without dialogue, we can't address any of the differences that arise between us. Australia and China have renewed and revitalised our engagement. We've agreed across today. We have a lot to do and a lot to look forward to. I want to thank you for taking the time to travel here and see the breadth of our great country. I know you have been here before, but once again, a very warm welcome to you here in Australia.
We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin American and Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In India, at least 7 people were killed on Monday in a train accident in the state of West Bengal. Regarding the incident, local police representative Iftikhar ul-Hasan reported that rescuers were still searching for victims on the passenger and freight trains and confirmed that 39 injured passengers had been hospitalized. Meanwhile, the member of the Railway Protection Force, Kumar Singh, indicated that it was possible that there were more bodies to be found. The accident is the latest to hit India's aging rail network, which carries millions of passengers every day. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi through social media X expressed his condolences to those who lost their loved ones in the train crash in West Bengal, as he also prayed for the early recovery of the injured while assured that rescue forces will continue in the area in search of survivors. Meanwhile, in Asia, an official from the Korean presidential office said on Wednesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to visit North Korea this week. The last time Putin traveled to North Korea was in the year 2000 when he visited Pyongyang to meet with the country's then leader Kim Jong-il, the father of current leader Kim Jong-un. So this visit might be the first one to occur after 24 years, time in which both countries have maintained friendly ties. In September of last year, Kim Jong-un made a visit to the Russian Far East, where he had a face-to-face meeting with Putin. The Russian leader was formally invited to visit North Korea back in January of this year when Pyongyang called Putin the closest friend of the Korean people. The Russian government denounced the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's intentions to take more nuclear weapons out of storage and put them on standby for possible deployment. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov referred to the statements made earlier by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, who said that NATO members are assessing the possibility of using their nuclear arsenal as a deterrent to an alleged growing threat from Russia and China. The director of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, Sergei Marishkin, also commented on the matter and stated that these declarations only seek to intimidate Russia and should be taken calmly without giving them any importance. European Union countries gave their final approval to a major and long-awaited plan to better protect nature in the 27-nation bloc. After surviving a close vote by lawmakers last summer, the so-called Nature Restoration Plan faced opposition from several member states, leaving the bill deadlocked for months. The law, which aims to restore the EU's ecosystems, species and habitats, was finally adopted at a meeting of environment ministers, gathering the necessary support from a qualified majority representing 15 of the 27 member states and 65% of the EU population. Austria's decision to finally support the plan helped to break the deadlock. This nature restoration plan is part of the EU's European Green Pact, which aims to set climate and biodiversity targets. According to the plan, member states will have to meet specific habitat and species restoration targets to cover at least 20% of the region's land and marine areas by 2030. Important to remember, the plan lost some of its progressive character during negotiations due to fierce opposition from the European Parliament's main political group, the European People's Party, which, along with other conservative and far-right, had insisted that the plans would undermine food security, fuel inflation, and harm farmers. On Monday in France, the organizing committee for the Paris 2024 Games held the second rehearsal for the event's opening ceremony on the Seine River. In this sense, close to 55 boats took part in the technical test ahead of the July 26 opening date, in which the athletes will parade on barges in front of some 300,000 spectators. The exercise took place on the waters of the heritage river Seine between the Austerlitz and the Vienna bridges, a 6-kilometer stretch planned for the opening of the Games. In this context, the authorities announced the third technical exercise will take place on June 24th.
We shouldn't be asked to be ready early, but we will be ready on time. It's a commitment that we have made every day, and that will continue. As the regional prefect, who coordinated all this, has said, the weather will become milder again from next week, which will be important in helping us to finalize this whole route. But for the time being, serenity is the key word, and we remain completely focused on the objective of our events, which will begin with the men's triathlon on July 30th.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.